Earth stayed quiet, until the Galactic Council insults went too far. The Galactic Council chamber hung in the silent void near Xanthera Prime, a glittering ring of alloy and light spinning slowly against the black. Inside, delegates from over 200 species filled the tiered seats, their voices a low hum of clicks, whistles, and translated speech. At the very back, in a shadowed corner reserved for unaccredited observers, sat Luke Bennett. He wore a plain gray suit, no insignia, no rank, just a small earpiece feeding him real-time translation. He had been coming here for 3 years, always ignored, always watching. Earth had not sent a formal envoy since the last one was laughed out of session for asking the Council to investigate pirate raids on human freighters near the Orion Rim. After that, the United Nations made a quiet decision. Stay silent, stay small, stay safe. So for 12 years, Earth sent no messages, launched no warships, made no demands. They vanished from the galactic map like a ghost. But Luke stayed, not as a diplomat, but as a witness. He filed reports no one read, recorded debates no one cared about, and sat through endless sessions where humanity was mentioned only as a joke. Today was no different. The agenda listed a petition from the Glixari hive, a minor insectoid species seeking protected status for their methane swamps. Boring, routine, forgettable, until Ambassador Korath Vey of the Varelian Dominion took the floor. Tall, silver-scaled, with eyes like polished obsidian, Vey was known for his sharp tongue and sharper politics. He waved a dismissive claw toward the back of the chamber. "While we waste time on swamp dwellers," he said, his voice amplified and translated into every known language, "let us not forget the real mystery of Sector 9, the planet that stopped talking. Earth, the mute apes who built cities but forgot how to speak. They send no envoys, no trade, no complaints. Perhaps they finally realize their place, not among stars but under them." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. Some delegates snorted, others clicked in amusement. A few glanced toward Luke's seat, smirking. Luke kept his face still. His hands rested on his knees, fingers relaxed. He did not look up. He did not react. But inside, something tightened. A coil wound too far. He remembered his childhood in Colorado, watching rockets streak into the sky, dreaming of joining them. He remembered the first alien ship arriving in lunar orbit, the hope that humanity would finally take its place among the stars. Instead, they were treated like children who wandered into a war room. Their technology was called crude, their culture primitive, their history a blink in cosmic time. And now, silence was seen as surrender. Korath Vey continued, pacing the central dais. "I once asked a human trader why his species does not speak. He said, 'We are listening.'" Vey laughed, a dry, rasping sound. "Listening to what? The wind in their empty fields? The echo of their own extinction? If Earth has anything worth saying, let them say it. But do not waste our time with silence dressed as wisdom." More laughter. The presiding arbiter, a soft-bodied Xanthari named Malus, tapped her gavel lightly. "Ambassador Vey, please return to the matter at hand." Vey bowed mockingly and stepped down. The session resumed, but the mood had shifted. Eyes kept drifting to the back row. Whispers followed Luke as he rose and walked out, his footsteps quiet on the polished floor. Outside the chamber, in the curving corridor that overlooked the starfield, he paused. He touched his earpiece and activated a private channel. "They went too far this time," he said, voice low. On the other end, thousands of light years away, deep beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Maya Ellis heard him clearly. She stood in the dim glow of Project Stillwater's central hub, surrounded by dormant consoles and flickering holoscreens. Beside her, General Dale Hicks crossed his arms, his face unreadable. "How far?" Maya asked. "Called us mute apes. Said we forgot how to speak. Implied we're already extinct." Luke exhaled slowly. "They think silence means fear," Dale grunted. "Maybe it did. Once." Maya's fingers hovered over a red switch labeled Awakening Protocol. It had not been touched in over a decade. The world above had gone quiet, but below, in hidden bunkers and buried shipyards, humanity had not stopped working. They had built, tested, refined. They had waited. Not out of cowardice, but strategy. Because when you are small and loud, you get crushed. But when you are small and quiet, you survive long enough to grow strong. "Do we respond?" Luke asked. "Not yet," Maya said. "But we start listening harder." Back in the council corridor, Luke watched a Varelian aide pass by, sneering as he caught sight of the human. Luke met his gaze but said nothing. He turned and walked toward the observation deck, where the Sol system was just a faint cluster of dots on the navigation map. Earth was not even labeled, just a pale blue speck lost among brighter stars. For years, humanity had accepted being ignored. They let their colonies get raided, their signals jammed, their pleas dismissed. They swallowed every insult because they knew they were not ready. But readiness was not just about weapons or ships. It was about timing. And today, in that chamber, the galaxy had shown its true face. Not as a council of equals, but as a club that mocked the weak and feared the strong. Luke placed a hand on the cool glass of the viewport. He thought of his sister, who died when a pirate vessel destroyed a medical freighter near Mars. He thought of the engineers in Kansas who spent nights designing stealth drives under fake wheat fields. He thought of the kids in Alaska who grew up learning alien languages just in case Earth ever needed to speak again. We are not mute, he thought. We were just choosing our words. Far below, in the heart of Nevada, Maya flipped the first switch. A soft chime echoed through the bunker. Lights blinked green on consoles that had been dark for years. Deep in Montana, a massive hangar door groaned open under a fake mountain ridge. In Alabama, a reactor hummed to life beneath what looked like an abandoned factory. And in orbit, hidden behind the moon's far side, dormant satellites began to power up, their lenses turning toward the stars. Earth had stayed quiet, not because it had nothing to say, but because it was waiting for the right moment to speak and be heard. The insult had been delivered. Now the answer was coming. Deep beneath the rocky crust of Nevada, inside a hollowed-out mountain wrapped in layers of steel and silence, Project Stillwater stirred. The air smelled of ozone and old concrete. Rows of dormant consoles lined the central chamber, their screens dark for over a decade, but now soft green lights pulsed along the edges, waking one by one. Dr. Maya Ellis stood at the main terminal, her fingers moving quickly over the keys. Beside her, General Dale Hicks watched the live feed from Xanthera Prime replay on a side screen. The moment Ambassador Korath Vey mocked Earth as a graveyard of cowards. Maya did not flinch. She had heard worse in simulation drills. But this was real, and real changed everything. For 12 years, Earth's governments had agreed on one rule: do not provoke. After the Council dismissed human concerns about frontier piracy, resource theft, and illegal scans of planetary defenses, the United Nations chose silence, not surrender strategy. While the galaxy laughed, humanity dug deeper. They buried shipyards under deserts, disguised reactors as farms, and trained pilots in underground simulators. They built a fleet no one knew existed, and they waited. Maya had helped design the core protocols of that plan. Dale had overseen its execution. Now the insult had crossed the line they never spoke of but all understood. Never question humanity's dignity. Stillwater is online, Maya said, her voice calm. Phase 1 initiated. Dale nodded. He tapped his wrist comm. Activate Echo Network. All zones. Priority Alpha. Across North America, hidden facilities responded. In Montana, beneath a false range of hills, massive hangar doors slid open with a low groan, revealing 3 sleek orbital cutters painted matte black. In Kansas, a wheat field split down the middle as a launch silo rose, its surface shedding dirt and grass to expose a deep space frigate named the Odyssey. In Alabama, inside what appeared to be an abandoned auto plant, engineers powered up the neural core of the Aegis, a command vessel built not for war, but for presence. Its hull bore no flag, no name, just smooth titanium and silent intent. Meanwhile, in Oregon, Claire Morgan sat in a small apartment overlooking the Pacific. She was a linguist, not a soldier, but her work had been critical. For years, she had studied every known alien dialect, mapping tone, intent, and subtext. She knew that in the Galactic Council, words mattered more than weapons, because weapons only ended conversations, but words could start them, or end them forever. Her phone buzzed. A single message. Report to Stillwater. Code Blackbird. She packed a small bag, left a note for her roommate, and walked out without looking back. Back in Nevada, Maya pulled up schematics of the Sol defense grid. Most of it looked inactive. Old satellites, decommissioned stations, rusting debris. But beneath the surface, a new layer hummed. Quantum-locked comms, stealth drones, and sensor nets woven through the asteroid belt. None of it broadcast. None of it blinked. It just watched and listened. They think we vanished, Dale said, arms crossed. Good. Let them keep thinking that a little longer. Not too long, Maya replied. Once they realize we heard Vei's speech live, they'll start scanning for our relay points. We have maybe 72 hours before they suspect something. Then we move fast. Dale turned to a wall screen showing Earth from orbit. Activate the quiet fleet. All ships to Ort staging zone. No emissions. No chatter. Just drift. The quiet fleet was humanity's secret answer to the galaxy's arrogance. Not built for destruction but for demonstration. Every vessel ran on closed-loop fusion cores, leaving no thermal trail. Their hulls absorbed radar and light. Their comms used quantum entanglement. Untraceable, unhackable. They could appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. And now, they would. As the orders went out, Luke Bennett returned to his quarters on Zenthera Prime. He uploaded the council session footage to a secure channel and erased his local copy. He knew the Varelians would check his logs. He also knew they would find nothing. Because the real message wasn't in the data. It was in the silence that followed. On Earth, cities carried on as usual. People worked, laughed, argued, dreamed. None of them knew that beneath their feet, a sleeping giant was opening its eyes. In schools, children studied math and history. In hospitals, doctors saved lives. In farms, crops grew under open skies. But in the shadows, a different kind of harvest was beginning. The kind that only comes after years of patience. Claire arrived at Stillwater by midnight. She was led through 3 security checkpoints, each more silent than the last. When she reached the central chamber, Maya greeted her with a nod. "You know why you're here. To speak for Earth," Claire said. "Not with anger. With clarity." "Exactly." Maya handed her a data slate. "We're not sending threats. We're sending truth. And truth needs the right voice." Claire reviewed the draft message. It was short. Just 2 sentences. But every word had been weighed, tested, refined. It carried no blame, no boast, just fact. And consequence. Meanwhile, Dale coordinated with Global Command. Russia, China, Brazil, India. All had signed onto the Stillwater Pact years ago, setting aside old rivalries for one purpose. Survival with dignity. Now their hidden assets synchronized. Russian stealth subs in the Pacific powered up silent reactors. Chinese orbital mirrors adjusted their angles to blind incoming scans. Brazilian jungle bases unlocked weapon caches. India's deep space array began mapping council fleet movements. Humanity had not united under a flag or a leader. It had united under a promise. Never again will we be treated as less than. As the second day dawned over Nevada, the first quiet fleet vessel reached the Oort cloud. Then another. Then 10 more. They formed no formation, made no signal. They simply existed, present, unseen, undeniable. Sensors on Zenthera Prime began picking up anomalies. Faint gravity ripples, micro-distortions, and background radiation. At first, the council dismissed them as cosmic noise, but the anomalies grew. Back in the council chamber, Korath Vei gave another speech, this time about the myth of human resurgence. He claimed Earth was too fractured, too primitive to ever pose a threat. The delegates laughed again, but this time the laughter was thinner. Luke watched from the back, silent as ever, but his eyes held something new. Not fear, not anger, but certainty. Far away in the cold dark beyond Pluto, the quiet fleet waited, not to attack, not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy of a simple truth. Silence is not emptiness. Sometimes it's the space between the old world and the new, and Earth was ready to speak. 3 weeks after the insult, the Galactic Council received its first real warning, not with fire but with absence. Sensors near the Sol System's outer rim began reporting strange gaps in deep space telemetry. Distant probes went dark not from damage but from deliberate signal suppression. At first, the Council assumed it was solar interference or a malfunction in their own network. But when 3 long-range scout drones vanished without distress calls, the Varelian Defense Ministry ordered a full scan of Sector 9. What they found made no sense. Dozens of mass signatures drifting near the Oort cloud, moving in perfect silence, emitting no heat, no radio waves, no engine trails. They bore no transponder codes, no known design markers. They were simply there, like stones placed in a river by an unseen hand. Panic spread through Zenthera Prime. Emergency sessions were called. Fleet commanders argued over whether to treat the objects as hostile. Ambassador Korath Vei scoffed. "Ghost ships," he declared. "Human folklore. They want us to fear shadows." But even he grew uneasy when the Council's top astrophysicist confirmed the readings. The objects were real, massive and accelerating with impossible efficiency. They weren't using ion drives or warp coils. Their propulsion defied known physics, smooth, silent, and utterly efficient. Meanwhile, deep in the Oort cloud, the quiet fleet held position. Aboard the Aegis, Claire Morgan stood on the command deck, watching the stars through a reinforced viewport. She wore a simple Navy uniform, no rank, no decoration. Beside her, Captain Elena Rojas monitored the fleet's status. All systems were green. All crews were ready. No one spoke unless necessary. The silence was part of the message. Back on Earth, Maya and Dale watched the Council's reaction through hacked diplomatic feeds. They saw the confusion, the fear, the slow dawning that something had changed. They expected us to beg, Dale said, not to appear. They forgot we listen, Maya replied. The time had come. Claire stepped to the comm station. She took a breath, then spoke into the open channel. Her voice was calm, clear, and carried no echo. It was broadcast across every known frequency. Military, civilian, diplomatic, even pirate bands. It reached every ship, every station, every listening post from the core worlds to the fringe colonies. The message was short. A recording of Korathve's insult played exactly as spoken, followed by Claire's words. You called us silent. You were wrong. We were listening. Then, nothing. No music, no threat, no demand. Just silence again. On Xanthera Prime, the council chamber fell utterly still. Delegates stared at their screens. Vay's face darkened. Luke Bennett remained in his seat, hands folded, expression neutral. But inside, he felt the shift. The moment the galaxy realized it had misjudged humanity not by a little, but by everything. The Council scrambled its peacekeeping armada. Over 200 ships launched from orbital docks, forming a defensive ring around Xanthera Prime. They expected an attack. They braced for war, but the quiet fleet did not move toward them. It stayed near Sol, patient, unmoving, yet its presence alone changed the balance of power. For the first time in centuries, the Council faced a force it could not classify, could not predict, and could not ignore. Analysts worked through the night, trying to identify the human vessels. They found no weapon signatures, no targeting locks, no aggressive postures. But they also found something worse, evidence of advanced cyber capabilities. Every Council satellite orbiting Xanthera Prime suddenly displayed a single symbol on its diagnostic screen, a blue sphere with a white ring. Earth's old emblem, unused for decades. It was not a hack. It was a signature. A calling card. The message was clear. We can reach you anytime. We choose not to. Luke received a private summons from the Arbiter Malus. She met him in a private garden dome, floating above the Council spire. Who are you really, Luke Bennett? She asked, her voice soft but sharp. Just a man from Earth, he said. We don't send liars to speak for us. Then why now? She pressed. Why break silence over words? Because words shape reality, he replied. You called us cowards. You said we forgot how to speak. But silence isn't fear. It's respect, for the moment when speaking matters. Malus studied him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. Your fleet, it carries no weapons, it carries truth, Luke said. Sometimes that's enough. Back in the Oort cloud, Claire watched as the Council armada held its position, confused and cautious. She knew the next move was hers, not as a soldier but as a voice. She prepared the next broadcast, not a threat but an invitation. Humanity would not demand recognition with force. It would offer it as a choice. On Earth, children played in parks unaware that their world was now the center of galactic attention. Farmers harvested crops. Teachers taught lessons. Life went on. But beneath it all, a new truth settled into the bones of the planet. Earth was no longer asking for a seat at the table. It had built its own, and the galaxy would have to decide whether to join it or be left behind. The quiet fleet waited, not to fight, but to be heard. The Council stalled. For 5 days they debated behind closed doors, sending coded messages to allied fleets, running simulations demanding proof that the silent ships near Sol were truly human. Ambassador Korath-Vay insisted it was a bluff, a trick using stolen tech or hired mercenaries. But the evidence mounted. The ships responded to no hails, ignored all warnings, and yet moved with impossible coordination. Worse, their very existence exposed a terrifying truth. Earth had not only survived isolation, it had thrived in it. While the galaxy squabbled over trade routes and ceremonial titles, humanity had built something new, something quiet, precise, and utterly beyond their understanding. On Zinthera Prime, tension thickened like fog. Delegates whispered in corridors. Security doubled at every entrance. Luke Bennett was finally given a proper seat, not in the back but near the center. No one laughed when he walked in. No one spoke to him either. They watched. They waited. They feared what came next. Meanwhile, deep in Nevada, Maya Ellis reviewed the final plan. It was not war. It was demonstration. General Dale Hicks stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the holographic map of Zinthera Prime's orbital network. They think we want to destroy them, he said. We just need to show we can. Without firing a shot, Maya added, the operation had a simple name, Clarity. Its goal was not to harm, but to humble. At exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time, every human vessel in the Oort cloud powered up their secondary systems, not weapons, not shields, but focused electromagnetic pulses tuned to the exact frequency of Council surveillance satellites. The pulses were harmless to life, but devastating to unshielded circuitry. Within 90 seconds, every satellite orbiting Zinthera Prime went dark, not destroyed, just disabled. Their screens flickered once, then displayed the same message. We see you. Do you see us? Panic erupted in the council chamber. Alarms blared. Delegates shouted over each other. Faye slammed his fist on the table. This is an act of war, is it? Luke asked calmly from his seat. No one was hurt. Nothing was broken beyond repair. You just lost your eyes for a moment. Imagine how it felt for us. 12 years without a voice while you watched and mocked. Arbiter Malus raised a hand for silence. Her voice, usually soft, now carried steel. Ambassador Bennett. What does Earth want? Luke stood. He did not pace. He did not gesture. He simply spoke. Formal recognition as a sovereign species. Reparations for resources stolen from our outer colonies. And the immediate censure of Ambassador Vey for inciting xenophobic contempt under Council protection. Gasps filled the room. Vey's face turned ashen. You cannot demand. We are not demanding, Luke interrupted. We are offering terms. Accept them, and we restore your satellites within the hour. Refuse, and we show you what else we can do without ever raising a weapon. The room fell silent. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Back in orbit, Claire Morgan watched the Council's comms traffic spike. Fear, confusion, calculation. She knew the next move had to come from them. So she waited. Aboard the Aegis, Captain Rojas gave the order to stand by. No aggressive maneuvers. No targeting. Just presence. On Earth, life continued as if nothing had changed. But in hidden bunkers and quiet labs, engineers monitored the situation with steady hands. In Montana, a technician sipped coffee while watching real-time telemetry from Zinthera Prime. In Alabama, a young pilot ran diagnostics on a drone that could disable a warship's navigation with a single pulse. None of them wanted war, but all of them were ready to defend dignity. After 3 tense hours, Arbiter Malus called an emergency vote. The council was divided. Some species sided with Vey, fearing human ambition. Others saw opportunity, a new power that played by different rules. But the deciding factor came from an unexpected source, the Glixari hive, the same insectoid species whose petition had been mocked weeks earlier. Their delegate rose and spoke in a soft, chittering voice translated for all to hear. The silent ones did not harm us. They showed restraint. That is the mark of true strength. We support their terms. One by one, other minor species joined, then mid-tier powers. Even some core world representatives nodded in reluctant agreement. Vey stood alone. The vote passed. Earth would be granted full recognition. Reparations would be calculated within 30 days. And Korath Vey was stripped of his ambassadorial status, ordered to return to Varelia for disciplinary review. As the decision was announced, Luke did not smile. He simply bowed his head in thanks. Then he activated a secure channel. It's done. On the Aegis, Claire gave the order. Within minutes, the Council's satellites flickered back to life. Systems rebooted. Data streams resumed. No damage, no trace. Just function restored, as if nothing had happened. But everything had. Luke walked out of the chamber not as an observer, but as Earth's official ambassador. Delegates stepped aside as he passed. Some nodded. Some avoided his eyes. None laughed. Back on Earth, Dale allowed himself a small sigh. They finally listened. They had no choice, Maya said. But now the real work begins. The treaty would be drafted by a team led by Claire, Luke, Maya, and Dale. Fair, balanced, and firm. It would not seek dominance, only equality. It would not punish but protect. And it would carry one unspoken rule: never again will humanity be spoken for by those who do not understand it. In orbit, the quiet fleet began to disperse, not retreating, not vanishing, just shifting position, still watching, still ready. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Silence is not emptiness. It is the space where strength gathers before it speaks. And Earth had finally found its voice. In the months that followed, Earth did not gloat. It did not parade its fleet through council space or demand special privileges. Instead, it did something far more unsettling to the old order. It showed up, spoke clearly, and kept its word. The treaty signed in the Great Chamber of Xanthera Prime became known as the Soul Accord, and it changed everything, not through force but through consistency. Humanity asked for little, only fair trade, mutual defense against piracy, and a seat at the table. And in return it offered something the galaxy had not seen in centuries: honesty without arrogance, strength without cruelty, and silence only when it mattered. Claire Morgan became Earth's chief xenolinguist, stationed permanently on Xanthera Prime. She did not wear uniforms or carry titles. She simply listened, translated, and corrected misunderstandings before they became conflicts. When the Xanthari misread a human gesture as aggression, she explained it was respect. When the Varelians accused Earth of hiding weapons in cargo ships, she invited their inspectors to tour every hold, openly, without conditions. Trust, she knew, was not given. It was built word by word, action by action. Luke Bennett remained ambassador, but his role shifted. He no longer sat in the back. He spoke often, always with calm precision. He never raised his voice, yet every word carried weight. Other species began requesting his counsel on disputes, not because Earth was powerful, but because it was fair. The mute apes of Sector 9 were now called the Quiet Judges, a name spoken with respect, not mockery. Back on Earth, life returned to its rhythm, but the world had changed beneath the surface. Factories that once built cars now produced fusion cores for deep space habitats. Schools added xenocultural studies to their curriculums. Children in Iowa learned Varelian tonal patterns alongside algebra. In Nevada, Project Stillwater was renamed the Horizon Institute and opened its doors to scientists from every continent. Maya Ellis led research into zero-point energy, sharing early findings with the Glixari hive in exchange for methane-based biofilters. Cooperation, not conquest, became humanity's new language. General Dale Hicks oversaw the Joint Defense Initiative, a coalition of human and alien forces patrolling the Orion Rim. Former pirate zones, once lawless and dangerous, now saw regular patrols, not armed to the teeth but equipped with rescue drones and translation beacons. Raids dropped by 90% in 6 months. Traders from 3 species began using human freight lanes, citing their reliability and safety. Earth did not claim ownership of the routes. It simply kept them open for everyone. The quiet fleet never returned to the Oort cloud. Instead, it split into small task groups, stationed at key junctions across the sector. They flew no flags, but their presence alone deterred aggression. When a rogue Krellian warlord threatened a mining colony near Proxima, 2 human cutters arrived within hours. They did not fire. They simply powered up their sensor arrays and broadcast a single message: stand down. The warlord fled. No shots were fired. No lives lost, just order restored. On Xanthera Prime, Arbiter Malus invited Luke to speak at the annual Unity Convocation. He stood before thousands of delegates and said only this: "We were silent not because we had nothing to say, but because we wanted to say it right. Now that we speak, we will not lie. We will not boast. We will simply be here, ready to help, ready to listen, ready to stand when standing is needed." The chamber did not erupt in cheers. It fell into a deep, thoughtful silence. Then one by one, delegates rose to their feet, not out of fear but respect. Back on Earth, Claire visited her hometown in Oregon. She walked the beach at sunset, the same one she had walked as a girl dreaming of stars. Now those stars knew her name, not as a warrior, not as a ruler, but as a bridge. She received a message from a young linguist on Mars, human, born off-world, who wrote, "Because of you, I don't have to choose between being human and being part of the galaxy. I can be both." That, Claire thought, was the real victory. In Montana, engineers tested a new drive that bent space without tearing it, a gift from human physics refined in isolation. They shared the schematics freely with the Council Science Bureau. In Alabama, Captain Rojas trained alien pilots in non-lethal engagement tactics. In Kansas, farmers grew food for off-world relief missions using hydroponic systems developed during the silent years. Humanity had not become a galactic empire. It had become something rarer, a trusted partner. Species that once dismissed Earth now sought its advice on everything from climate stabilization to conflict mediation. The Council created a new committee, the Voice of the Unheard, and placed Luke at its head. His first act was to give the Glixari Hive full voting rights. Years passed. The insult from Korath Ve became a footnote in history books, remembered not as a moment of shame, but as the spark that woke a sleeping world. Earth never forgot the lesson. Silence is not weakness. It is the space where wisdom grows. And when new species came seeking help, lost and afraid in the vast dark, they did not find a fortress or a throne. They found a hand reaching out, steady, quiet, and human. The stars had learned to listen, and Earth at last had found its place among them, not by shouting but by speaking true.